Ahoy everyone, Tightrope here, and today we're taking a look at the balance changes that affect the British Forces and Afrika Corps from the 1.70 patch. Royal Engineers got roughly a 15% increase in accuracy at all ranges, but to compensate for that lower amount, they also got 10 more health, so should be in a pretty similar spot. Infantry Sections got about a 7% increase in accuracy, but they also got an increase in damage, by 2 on the rifle and by 3 on the pistol. The net impact of that as a squad is they've got about 26% more DPS at close and at far. So they're right in that same 25% ballpark as everyone else. The scoped rifle upgrade has also received some changes. Now it's got the same damage and rate of fire characteristics as their regular rifle, but it's got better accuracy, mainly better accuracy up close. See, decent margin there, but at a far it's really small. Do remember the scoped rifle upgrade also gives you that ability to like partially negate cover. It's got better accuracy against units in cover, so it's got that going for it as well, but it's also a little bit unusual to see a scoped rifle upgrade giving you better performance up close and not that much better at far. It's a little bit strange. Australian Lights got a very similar change where they got about 7% increased accuracy at all ranges, but 2 more damage per shot. So for them that works out to be about 25% more at close DPS and about 27% more DPS at far. The Australian Lights scoped rifle upgrade also got changed. Now they do 2 more damage per shot, which is about 14% more DPS. The Vickers Vet 1 ability has been reworked. Now it's a toggle rather than a timed ability. Gives them plus 10 range and more vision range, but reduces the arc by 15%. It says, I think this probably means like 15 degrees on each side when the unit is set up, and it also removes its AoE suppression capabilities. So I'll toggle that here, having a look into the distance.
Right, men, let's look lively.
So you lose all sight around the machine gun, only seeing inside of that cone basically. But you see out to further and you can shoot out to quite a bit further. So I wanted to see how the Vickers Vet 1 will work inside of a building. So here we are in here. You don't have to activate it before you get in. You just click on them down here or press tab and then press focus gunnery down the bottom corner here.
We'll get it done.
And it doesn't seem to have changed the indicating arcs whatsoever.
What do you need?
I wasn't paying close enough attention. I think it did boost up the range. So it looks like it should be working.
Make it quick. MG here, say the word.
Oh. There it goes. Oh, that's a bit unusual. Interesting. So it doesn't look like it changes it, but as soon as they go to actually fire on something, it does function that way. And oh boy. It is having a tremendous amount of trouble. Why can't I right click on that? They're in range. Yeah, that's not functioning too well inside of a building. The 3-inch mortar team, 6-pounder and 17-pounder have all got a new shared Vet 1 ability called Entrenchment. This replaces their old Vet abilities. What this does, you have to entrench for 5 seconds. You hit this. And during that entrenching time, you can't attack with these team weapons. And then once you're set up, you take 25% less damage and have a rate of fire bonus. That's what it looks like. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure that these sandbags are like entirely functional. I was trying to see if they would block shots earlier and they didn't seem to, but there do seem to be maybe some heavy cover positions around them. Or maybe that's just around the AT gun itself, I'm not sure. Either way, it's a little bit weird. And there are some unusual things going on with this as well. Like the mortar, see I've got attack ground going now. And attack ground, like, where can I attack ground? I can't attack ground behind me. But then look, if I barrage behind me.
Out the enemy.
It's a miracle of modern warfare technology. It's like those heat-seeking missiles. Oh boy. So yeah, might need some more work on the 3-inch. Like it seems like the 3-inch can maybe attack ground in front of itself or like some directions, but not behind itself, limiting its movements. I don't know. It's a bit confusing. But yeah, 25% reduced damage, and that's in all directions. You don't have to be, like, the enemy doesn't have to be in front of you. They're coming in from behind as well. You'll still take 25% less damage. I will say that, you know, on the 3-inch mortar, its previous Vet 1 was pretty much trash. Like, it will tighten the scatter as the barrage went on for longer, which didn't really matter because the scatter was already so low. So they're not missing out on anything. But the HE shells on the 17-pounder, they were actually really good. So, you know, might help you get through, like, some Nebelwerfer barrage action, but back the other way. No more HE shells, which is a pretty big blow. Now let's see what happens if I try to tow an entrenched weapon. Seems to be pretty much the same. Might take like a quarter of a second longer or something, but yeah, it seems to be basically the same. So you don't have to worry about breaking down your entrench. Just pick it up with the towing vehicle. Should be all good. One more important thing to note about entrenching is that AT guns can't rotate while they're entrenched. They're locked into this arc. So you're going to have to break free if you're entrenching if you need to rotate. So it does limit the functionality by quite a bit. The Foot Guard's Vet 1 ability staggered shot is now guaranteed to penetrate, so it will always slow and stun the enemy vehicle. So we'll see how that goes. And now it's crew shocked. That's, you know, against Tiger. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Makes this thing even better. That's crazy. The Polsten upgrade on the CMP truck has gone through a huge number of changes this patch. First off, it costs 15 munitions more to upgrade, going back up to 60 again. I've got instant production on. Popping it here. One little bug I noticed is that after you pop it, if you don't change your selection, you can't see the attack round. But then if you reselect it, attack round pops up. So it's just a minor little detail there, but it was worth mentioning at this time. So yeah, you might have seen it setting up there. Its base range is 25, but then it says after a 3-second setup time, it gives you plus 25 range, essentially doubling your range, going out to 50. So it gives you a lot of range, but still not completely useless if you do have to move. Like if a light vehicle starts chasing you, gets onto your wrong side, you have to do a little bit of maneuvering. Still got the 25 range, so you got a bit of versatility there. Not completely helpless in those situations, so it's kind of interesting. Also giving you a handbrake mode on top of this, so that if you have to rotate, you know, you can stay locked in place, so you can keep that range bonus. So it's going to make it easy to use. The Polsten also got a bonus of 5 damage per shot more when it's shooting at vehicles. So let's see how it goes here against the flat feeling. Rear to rear. Well, it seems to be better than it used to be, and that's sort of like a respectable amount of damage. You've got some support from this, like 2 boy shots, and that's dead now. So yeah, combined up with the extra range, it's going to make this a lot easier, I think, to use against other light vehicles. Polsten also got a slight buff to its AoE damage, so let's see how that goes here. It's maybe got a 2 model damage cap. You know, that's chewing through stuff at a respectable rate. Looks okay, especially now that you can use it from much safer range. Should increase its fireability. The Polsten's also got a new Vet 1 ability called Fragmentation Rounds. It costs 25 munitions to activate, gives it a better AoE, and also helps it to perform better against cover. So let's see how this goes. Similar story, but this time behind cover. That's a big explosive area effect on the ground, isn't it? Still, because it's got a 2 model damage cap, you know, it doesn't help that much in this scenario. I'm sure, like, the helping partially ignore cover, that's going to be good. And maybe if the squad's more spaced out on light cover, the AoE damage change will help there as well, but yeah, I mean, that's looks okay. The Crusader has received some pretty big changes to its main gun. It's had 1 second or so taken off its reload time, so it should be firing much more frequently now. But on the other side of that, it's also had its AoE damage reduced and its damage cap reduced, so maybe that will cause things to even out a bit against infantry. So we'll see how it goes against a whirlwind here. It should kind of terrorize vehicles like this. That's pretty fast rate of fire there. 100 damage per shot. It's pre-upgun, remember? So at this range though, still pretty decent chance to bounce. So it's looking pretty good. We'll see how it goes now against a couple squads. One spaced out. One clumped up against cover. Pretty similar whether it's clumped up or out in the open. That's kind of funny. Doesn't seem to change much. I guess the AoE and the damage cap's just so restricting now. Barely any difference. The 6-pounder upgrade for the Crusader also went through a lot of changes. Came down in cost by 15 munitions. It had 1.25 seconds knocked off its reload, so it will also be firing much more quickly, and had massive reductions in its AoE. So we'll see how it does. Same test. It's the Wirbel. Obviously this has way better penetration. 20 more damage per shot as well, so I think it means it takes one less shot to kill the Wirbel. So yeah, if you're up against vehicles, the 6-pounder is still a good option. Well, I scrolled away, there was crazy amounts of ragdolls coming out of that thing. See how it does against infantry now as well. All these AoE reductions. Yeah, I mean, out in the open, anything is dying faster than against the wall. Tried to space them like similar distance away. Seems like the AoE on this is like really small now. The Churchill heavy tank has gained 40 frontal armor this patch and had 0.75 of a second knocked off its reload time. I still think, you know, it hasn't really been seeing like any play ever since it got locked behind tech as part of the heavy armor battle group. So there was a big blow to it. Most people still just stalling up for the Black Prince instead. And I think it still needs like something else to differentiate it more from the Matilda. I know it's got more health, more armor, maybe better against vehicles, but it's got, you know, the exact same smoke and Vet 1. Just still feels like there's a bit too much overlap between those two. Also in the heavy armor battle group, the Designate Targets ability has gone through a couple changes. It's come down in cost by 10 munitions. It's also been increased in area, going from a radius of 30 to 40, so a bigger area, but its received accuracy portion has been reduced, going from 40% received accuracy penalty to 20% to units that are in the area. So we're going to drop it here in the middle. See the increased area. It's going 40 each side of this range indicator. We're bringing in the plane. Now it says here a recon plane. Yep, there it goes. Spots the recon. We can see the circle goes out to 50 range, where it provides vision to 50 range, but the debuff only goes to 40 range. So you can see this squad is inside the circle, but not inside that 40 range. And they're not getting debuffed. So the circle and the vision makes it a little bit confusing as to where the debuff starts and ends. The Bofors has gone through quite a few changes. It's come down in cost, both in terms of manpower, fuel, and population, so right across the board, much more affordable. On top of that, it's got more armor and more penetration. So, yeah, a little bit more formidable. Basically, nobody's been building them. At this cost, they might be a little bit tempting. Maybe you want to like plonk it down somewhere. But they are pretty easy to siege, both with indirect fire and AT guns. So, yeah, at least now, when you lose them, you're not losing so many resources. So with the Bofors' new penetration value, let's see how it does up against their whirlwind at close to max range. Close to max range, still got about here. Longest range. No, it's doing alright. Certainly going to win this fight where before it might have been like absolutely neck and neck. So yeah, going to offer much more stiff resistance against anything like shorter of Panzer IV now. The 2-pounder AT gun that comes in the Australian Defence Battlegroup has had its variancy requirements reduced, which I think is sensible because I think they used to be harder to vet up than a 6-pounder, which doesn't really make sense. The artillery tripwire flares can now be planted anywhere on the map. You don't have to plant them inside of a capture circle any longer, so it opens up quite a few more opportunities to use them, though maybe inside of a circle is still going to be one of the best options because that's where units often come to a rest, but maybe you want to plant them on like heavy cover or something as well. But yeah, as I said, I don't think this will change too much about how to use them because against like moving units, usually the shell comes in too late to do much. So yeah, maybe opens up more opportunities to put them on heavy cover, sandbags, stuff like that. So maybe with cover being more important this patch, these will become more relevant now. In the Indian Artillery Battlegroup, the artillery saturation option now gives you extra shells on both the airburst barrage and the perimeter monitor. So this kind of spices up this as an option because most people do select the heavy mortar. Makes this more appealing. Also, you know, the BR 5.5 got 3 extra shells, better scatter, but a slightly slower cooldown. So yeah, makes this also more appealing. And you know, combined up with the extra shells from this, that's going to be 10 shells on the BL 5.5. That's going to be kind of crazy. One thing that I did want to mention though, with the longer cooldown on the barrage after this got extra shells, the precision shot also seems to have the longer cooldown, which is maybe a bit sad considering only fires 1 shell. You have to then wait for like a minute, which is now being reduced by the V1 barrage cooldown bonus. But yeah, it's a bit sad because yeah, that didn't get buffed at all and basically nobody uses it. So maybe that's getting caught in a crossfire. Maybe they could split the cooldown somehow. It doesn't really seem fair. 2 cost increases in the air and sea battle group, starting out with the incendiary bombing run. That now costs 30 munitions more each time you use it. On top of that, the naval bombardment, that's gone up in command point cost by 1. And more to unlock. And then in terms of its cost as well, it costs 250 to use now instead of 225. So not going to be able to spam the abilities as much with this battle group anymore. For the Afrika Korps infantry, the Panzer Grenadiers, Panzer Pioneers, and Basiglieri all got the standard 25% increase in accuracy at all ranges from these TTK changes. Panzerjägers no longer have the option to upgrade the MG34. It's been completely removed. I don't think it was like a super popular upgrade, especially since they got knocked down to 4 models instead of 5. But yeah, it's gone for good now. Assault Grenadiers have gone through quite a few changes this patch. They didn't get any accuracy buffs on their guns, so it's a little bit unusual. But they did get 10 extra health at Vet 0. However, that was removed. They used to get a 10 extra health bonus at Vet 2. That's been cut. Their old Vet 1 ability, Tactical Advance, has been removed. And now their Smoke Grenade has been locked behind Vet 1 instead. And they've got a new passive ability called Assault Disembark. Basically, you load into a transport. Transport has to be in combat for this to trigger. So if you can see, if I get out now, this doesn't trigger. Transport has to be in cover, in combat rather. So we'll see what it does here. Drive forwards. So I jump out. I run around 40% faster for 10 seconds. You can see, while I've got that speed buff, I can still fire. It doesn't like disable my guns in sprinting. And I missed it, but your grenades, if they were cooling down, the cooldown will reset, and you'll be able to throw a grenade, assault, or smoke grenade for no munitions cost. So yeah, it's kind of like a spicy idea. I think overall though, you know, with the smoke getting locked behind Vet 1, maybe it's going to be a bit too hard to get value out of Assault Grenadiers, and maybe they're not going to keep up in the TTK change race. So I don't really see them being that good this patch. The Kradschutzen has had some unusual changes. First off, it's got more rear armor, so it's got the same amount of armor on every side, but it's had its reverse ability removed. So it's a bit unusual. I think I heard that they did this in CO1 as well with this. So yeah, can't reverse. They said they've also like sped up its turn, so it's a lot more zippy now.
I know the engine's hot.
So you can see it is
Hot.
very nimble
Kradschutzen diving into the lines.
for sure.
Orders
But yeah, no
acknowledged.
reverse,
Motorbike will get there.
which is interesting. I kind of struggle how you would use this in like a fire support role now in combat. Because a squad can just start running at you,
Utility vehicle here.
and you can't reverse as it's approaching and do damage. You just have to like wait until it gets up close and then try to turn around and then turn back around. Yeah, from what I've heard, Kradschutzen kind of sucks now after this change. So maybe they need to do something else to it. Some people said like maybe they could give it reverse at like really slow speeds, like maybe at 2. So a little bit slower than what infantry could. Maybe simulating what it'd be like if you're pushing the bike back while the gunner was still firing or something. I don't know. Either way,
Achtung, crew.
yeah, I think from what I've heard so far, the Kradschutzen is not good. The 250 was one of the few light vehicles that got touched in these TDK changes. On its machine gun, it got improved accuracy, about 20% more accuracy at close range, about 16% at long range, so not quite that 25% margin that we've seen with a lot of other units. But in return for that, it actually got its moving performance nerfed. It used to have 0.75 moving accuracy, now it's gone down to 0.5, which I think would overall be like a nerf compared to pre-patch, even with the accuracy buff it got. On top of that, it got a veterancy requirement reduction, so we faster vet up. The 250/9 has received a huge number of changes in this patch, probably the most of any unit. First off, I think it's got a new icon here. The description does have an error though. It says increases health by 2, by 40. The number's supposed to be flipped around there. As you can see, when you go from the regular half track to the 259, now a speed reduction. So it's not going to be quite fast enough to like chase down those ultralights like it used to be quite good at. They have also reworked the guns on this. The machine gun's got more accuracy right across the range, and the autocannon has been changed. Now it's got very similar stats to the 8-Rad. It only does 12 damage per shot instead of 16. It has slightly better AoE, but there is a catch to that. If you want it to perform similar to the 8-Rad, you have to have a unit garrisoned inside of it. That's right, you can now garrison the 259 once it's been upgraded. And if you don't have a unit inside of it, each shot comes through 0.8 of a second slower. So we'll do a comparison here. You can see that makes a massive difference. Almost 8-Rad versus extremely slow in the autocannon. So that's a big deal. But yeah, you can garrison it. It's got a new Vet 1 ability, Hit and Run. Once it gets down to 75% health or below, we'll get a speed bonus for 20 seconds, so I'll be able to drive away faster. So even though I've got a speed nerf, it's not going to hurt survivability. In fact, it's going to be better at surviving, because I'll be able to rapidly drive away anytime it gets low. And that's got a pretty low cooldown as well. I think it's a 40-second cooldown on this. So this will be able to trigger quite frequently. And on top of that, it hasn't lost its medics when you upgrade it anymore. So you'll be able to use this for healing as well. So it's got a lot more utility. Now you can see this entire card is filled up now. This is a very versatile unit, and you know I'm going to be playing with it a whole bunch, because I think I might have been the player who played with the 259 the most out of anyone I know. So we're going to give the 259 a bit of a head-to-head test here against the Humber. See how it does against a light vehicle like this, both with the squad inside over here and without it. I wonder if that one had to reload initially.
2509 half-track destroyed.
So yeah, it looks like it'll take it down to about 2/3-ish health. So still going to lose to the Humber in the head-to-head because it's pretty fragile and doesn't have the best penetration. The Cannone that is available in the Italian Infantry Battlegroup has been buffed. It can now auto-fire, similar to the M2A1 for US forces, but you don't have to select an extra battlegroup option to get that auto-fire happening. I think it's like got the same range as that, but it is worse than the M2A1 in terms of auto-fire. Have a look. Pretty good there. Yeah, it's got worse scatter, worse AoE damage, especially towards the edge of its AoE. It's significantly weaker than the M2A1 is. Though it does have a high damage cap. M2A1 has 3, Cannone has 4. So, you know, if you get a really good hit, you can maybe do more damage with Cannone against a topped up unit. But yeah, you don't have to select any extra battle group option to get it, so that's what makes it so good. And on top of that, the Cannone, this patch, you know, got a scatter buff as well. So, you know, it's looking promising for the Cannone. It also, though, in return for this, it did lose 25 range for its barrage. So you might actually have to put this on the field somewhere nowadays instead of just leaving it in your base. Having a look at a few of the most important bug fixes, and we're starting out with the construction assistance range. Doesn't sound that important, but basically what it does is when your engineer finishes building something, how far away it looks if something else is being constructed, and they'll run over there and help construct that too. So, you know, it sounds like a good idea, but it used to be 50 range, now it's down to 15. And this used to be a pretty major problem because, say, at the start of a game, I'd start building some sandbags over here. Like, oh yeah, this is all good, and then oh yeah, I need to start my construction. These guys would finish the sandbags and then go over and try and help build this tech structure, maybe run out of the capture circle. If I wasn't watching, I'd be like, oh my god, what's going on here? Like, why? Why are they doing this? It was so frustrating. It happened all the time, so I'm really glad they've reduced this because this would tilt me to no end. Quite often you'd have your squad like run out of the capture circle to go help construct sandbags somewhere else. You know, it's just a mess. Lose a whole bunch of captain time, lead to a slow start. Thank you so much for fixing this. They've made a change to machine guns when you get out of buildings. Previously, if you hit the unload selected troops button and there's an enemy outside, as soon as they exit the building, they'll just reset up again and start shooting at it, which you may not want to have happened. You might want to have retreated or moved it somewhere. So they've added a grace period now before it starts attacking. So we'll see how it goes. I will say that this is probably aimed at like beginner players, right? Because I think I would still recommend, in spite of this change, for you to select the machine gun, either with tab or clicking down here, but probably with tab, and then right-clicking to get out to wherever you want to go. That way your machine gun will get out and start running there, so this wouldn't be a problem in the first place. So anyway, let's see what the bug fix does.
We're relocating while we can.
So yeah, I would say the grace period's not super long. Maybe like a second, or even slightly under that. Just gives you a little bit of time to give it an extra order if you want to. One more thing I wanted to say, I've got the deliberate battle group unlocking turned off so I can select my battle group faster. But say if I come into Italian Coastal, select this, New ability online. Look at what's not over here. They're not here until you close this. They don't show up, the battle group options, until you've closed this with deliberate battle group unlocking turned off. So I kind of like them to show up here straight away, such that maybe I could go from here and then just like click over here and then straight away deploy them. Like take even one fewer step of having to close this menu before doing something. Especially for these like early game calling units. You know, that extra like half a second or whatever you save right at the start of the game. You know, it just feels a lot less frantic if you can do something like that and just click on it straight away. I think the two most exciting changes for me are to the 250/9 and the Cannone. I'm really looking forward to trying out those units. And if you've enjoyed this video, maybe consider buying a Guastatorian mug from my store. Big up to the Patreon massive. Get in there, boys.